We're here with Golden Gate Warlock, otherwise known as Wally. He is a 6-year-old registered drum horse, which means he is a gypsy cob cross Clydesdale. Now, I am warming up Wally on the long reins in the cooler lunge with the plan of then riding him through these same exercises. So the first exercise is I have set up poles on an 18-metre circle. So the reason for the 18-metre circle is I can ride around the outside of the poles when I'm warming him up in walk and trot under saddle. And then with the smaller size circle, it's easier to get him to stay on the line that he's travelling on in the long reins. So the cooler lunge also helps to balance him and improve that connection, which I'm trying to achieve without the influence of my weight on his back. So he starts to develop that balance and that connection, which will then carry through into his under saddle work. So the poles help to engage the hindquarters, lift the back, lift the thoracic sling, and encourage him to work in around a frame. So with the way this exercise is set up, he can warm up and walk, and then he can continue the exercise and trot. Firstly on the long reins, as I said, in the cooler lunge, and then we carry this through to under saddle. So Wally is definitely getting straighter and easier to manage on the long reins. So the plan is to then take that better improved balance, rhythm and connection through into the under saddle work. And as you can see, Wally's already got his saddle on, which makes for a quick transition from the long reins and the cooler lunge to simply putting on my boots and helmet and getting on him. Now that I've warmed up Wally on the long reins in the cooler lunge, I'm going to carry on what we were doing into our under saddle work. So firstly, at a walk, I'm going to step him over each of the poles to ensure that he's still comfortable with what we're doing, which he clearly is. But I do like this exercise because it can be performed in walk and in trot versus just a line of poles, which you will then have to get off and adjust if you wanted to walk over them first and then trot over them. Now you'll see that Wally's looking more balanced in his trot today. He's definitely easier to keep in the trot and easier to stay on the circle because he's starting to develop some straightness. Now what I mean by straightness is his body from pole to tail is following that line that we're travelling on. Yes, he does still want to lead with that right shoulder, but we are working on that. And he is still a little bit behind my leg. But after we've done this exercise in walk and trot in both directions, I'm then going to incorporate some transitions into our work between the poles. So I do sometimes like to incorporate some lateral work as well with the poles, like you can leg yield out, spiral back in, etc. This is a really fun exercise that you can do a lot of different things with. And now I'm just going to make some transitions from walk to halt and then back to walk again. Now what I'm looking for is for him to move forward off my leg without me having to kick him. So you always want to consider your sequence of aids to get the horse in front of your leg. So squeeze first, then kick, then whip. And you need to be consistent with that sequence of aids so you don't end up with a horse that needs 6 kicks to get it to go forward. And that can actually become the aid if you're not consistent with your aids. So you want to get the horse to move off the gentlest, softest possible aid. Remember, they can feel a fly on their flank, so he can feel my legs. He just hasn't been taught how to react correctly to that aid. So he's not stubborn, he's not lazy. He just needs to be shown what I want him to do. So what I don't want him to do is ignore me. I want to have a reaction to my action. Good job. Otherwise you fall into the trap of having the horse that's the kick-along horse and you end up working harder than them. So I put Wally on the long reins first to try and get him thinking forward without the influence of my weight on his back, and because I can get him going forward a little bit better from the ground. And then my plan was hopefully for that to carry through into our under saddle work. And you can see that he's moving forward off my leg much easier than in our previous ride. And now I'm going to do some transitions from trot to walk and then back to trot again. And so there was quite a few kicks there. But the plan is to get him going off that lighter aid. And so you'll see that I asked first, nothing happened, so then I applied a firmer aid. So you don't start with the firm aid, you start with the softer aid because that's the aid that I want him to go from. And then my goal is for him to maintain the pace that I put him in without me having to continuously urge him along. Now, because we've done the circle exercise and I have already got the trot poles set up, I'm just going to do a couple of lines of the trot poles. Now, what I did find is that Wally was quite easy to get down over the trot poles off the left rein. We actually had a really big argument on the right rein because he would not come off the rail. I did edit it out of the video because it was just quite monotonous and I wanted to keep this video under 10 minutes. But because he does want to be on that, actually he does want to normally be on his right shoulder and he's turning nicely, but yeah, here he was running out onto the left shoulder coming from the opposite direction and being quite obnoxious. So that was a lovely round. So here, and you'll see him, he's curled to the right because I'm trying to stop him falling onto that left shoulder and barging out onto the fence line. And my student did have a problem in the previous lesson actually. So we did have to do a little bit more work on this side to get him to stay off of that rail, which is what he wanted to follow and use for support. We get a good trot down the long side and a nice straight line over the poles for the last time with a good transition where we didn't have to kick. So we are finishing this training session on a good note. So that's it for us for today. So thank you for watching. Please follow along with Wally's training progress by subscribing to our channel, Cooler Lunch.